Okay, let's get started. This is going to be about food safe finishes. And basically, what makes a finished food safe? And ideally it's not only the solids that the finish has, but it's the solvents that are in the finish. The solvents are the key. Water-based solvents are always better than oil-based solvents. I've got this particular can of Brie wax here because Brie wax is famous for really, really strong, powerful solvents that aren't that much good for you, but you can smell that. So usually if you smell something like that, that's really not something that you want to be using on a regular basis. It's very, very solvent. And you can not only inhale solvents, but you can absorb them through your skin. You should wear something like you've got, and you should have gloves on. The gloves can be anything from the latex gloves that you've seen to something like this. Something like this is good because, one, it lets your hand breathe because this is fabric in the back. And on the front, it's impervious to the solvent. So here, you can wear this all day. You'll find out that the latex ones, you use for something and you take them right off because your hands are really going to sweat. So when we look at all this stuff, the biggest thing we're looking at before we do anything else, we're looking at the solvents. And basically that means is it water-based. All oil, oil-based and water-based can be food safe. But we want it to be people safe when we do the application. So, that being said, we've got basically oils and waxes, and we've got film finishes. Film finishes are finishes that dry on the surface. Oils go into the wood and they harden into the wood. Waxes aren't finishes. Waxes are used to add luster to an oil finish. And what I mean by that is this beautiful piece of walnut right here has been finished with Odie's oil. So it's Odie's oil over the whole thing. But if we look at the reflection, we can see that over here we're seeing some blotchiness. As the oil is absorbed and as the texture of the wood, because you can see the burl here, changes, we can get changes in the reflection. Okay? So very hard, very strong finish, but over time we can start to see some blotchiness and reflection. Here, there's none. It's gone. Okay? This is wax on top of the Odie's oil. So anytime you think about using an oil finish, think about you want to use a wax, a combination of oil and wax. The thing is, oil goes into the wood to harden. The wood and it's hard, it's going to stay there forever unless you sand it away. So if once you put the first coat on and it's absorbed and hardened, when you put the second coat on, it can't get into the wood, so it turns into a sticky, gooey mess on the top. If you want to put a second coat, and you do if you want to do something like a hand-rubbed oil finish, what you're going to do is you're going to put your oil on, let it dry, your second coat on with a 400 grit piece of sandpaper. You're going to wipe up all the excess. You're going to let it dry for 24 hours. You're going to put the third coat on with an 800 piece of sandpaper. And you're going to go through the stages till you get to 1200 to 2000. And then you're going to get a, what they call the hand-rubbed oil finish. You kind of lose yourself. To make it work, you're using the sandpaper to abrade the surface to expose fresh wood so the oil can go in. This is a good example here of a hard wax finish. I'm going to put this around. It's very food safe. All finishes are food safe after 30 days. Okay, and if you're looking at what kind of finish did that, that's it. So it does a great job. You glop it on, spread it around, let it sit for 24 hours, and when you come back, it's going to look like that. So solvent is the first thing we want to deal ourselves with food safe. Not so much for the food, but for us. And then once we go, and I would highly recommend you always use a water-based, especially if you're in an enclosed room. Water-based, the fumes are much less. It's water. The solvents are not bad because it's water. It does a very, very good job. You just have to raise the grain before you use it. By raise the grain, take a damp cloth, wipe down the wood, let it sit for an hour, and basically it's 1, 2, 3, you're done. And now you've taken that off, it won't raise anymore. Now you can put your water-based finishes on. It's a walrus oil, but it's what they call their furniture butter. It's an oil-wax combination, so you're putting both on the same time. The oil in it's going to go right into the wood. The wax is going to sit on top. After 24 hours, you buff it, and you're good to go. It's one of the easiest finishes I've ever used. I mean, it's literally wipe it on, wait 24 hours, buff it off, you're done. Now, the nice part about all these oil finishes, if they get damaged, a little child takes a black magic marker and writes on something, somebody kicks it, somebody drops something and chipped it. All you do is put more oil on it, sand it in with a piece of sandpaper, wipe up the excess, done, it's fixed. It does a really, really good job as far as repairing. But basically when we talk about food safe finishes, we are talking about stuff you're eating from, stuff babies are going to put in their mouth. Okay? So, stuff that babies put in their mouth. There is no safer food safe finish than this. Now again, I tell you all finishes are food safe in 30 days because all the solvents are gone. So all you're left is with the solids. And those are basically food safe. But let me talk about this for a second, okay? This is a shellac. Of all the businesses that use shellac throughout the world, woodworkers are only number 8 on the list of the amount of shellac used. What's number 1? If you've ever eaten shiny chocolate, you've eaten shellac. Food industry, chocolate industry, uses shellac more than any other profession in the world. Okay? If you've ever eaten a shiny apple, you've eaten wax. This is a shellac wax. There is no safer. Now, can you drink this? Sure you can. It's going to taste like heck, and you're going to be in the bathroom for a while, but it won't kill you. So if babies are chewing on something, and this is something that, if you want to put a finish on, this is what it would be, because it's not going to hurt them. And as they bite in the wood, when they start to get their teeth, they should stop. It's nice and safe. It's easy to repair. One nice thing about this is there's like 2 finishes that dissolve into themselves, shellac and lacquer. So all you have to do is take some more, put this on the toy. If it's been chewed up, boom, you're back to normal again. So this is a very, very safe finish, and this is safe out of the can. The transport mechanism, this is alcohol. So a little bit of alcohol goes a long way. That's what keeps this liquid, and when it evaporates, this goes solid. All these others are solids. Even this will tell you, wooden bowl finish. You look in this, that's going to say wait 23 weeks, 4 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, because all the solvents are gone. So, that being said, you'd be happy with these. So what would you pick these over these? That comes to this. Stuff you're going to eat out of. If we're going to eat out of this, whether it's a wooden plate, a wooden bowl like this, what are we going to eat? If we're going to eat cereal, you don't have to worry about anything. If this is a wooden plate and you're going to put steak on it and chop it up on the plate, yeah, we need to be worried about what finish we're putting on, because if we put a film finish on and we start slicing it, we are going to actually cut lines in the finish. So if it's going to be a plate, something we're going to cut on, we want the finish to be an oil finish. We want it into the wood. We can slice the wood all day long. The finish is still going to stay. And if we slice a whole bunch and the starch is a little oil on it, sand it in, wipe up the excess, the marks are gone. So if it's going to be a finish you're going to use and cut on, you want an oil type finish. If it's going to be a cutting board, you want a finish that doesn't dry. And that's what these are. This is mineral oil, and that's what these are. These are mineral oil and wax. Mineral oil, the wax that go on top, both together. Okay? What this is going to do is the mineral oil keeps the wood from drying out. It's going to keep it from cracking and splitting. The wax seals it so it takes longer for that oil to basically evaporate. So with this by themselves, you should be thinking how you should be redoing it at least once a month. With this on there, every couple months. Just know that you never put a cutting board in the sink in water. You tip it to the side, you clean it off with a rag, wipe up off the water, and you're good to go. But don't let it sit in the water. These little beeswaxy things, I see people getting this to use as a finish. This is not finished. This is something to make the oil, hold the oil in. The wax in and of itself is not a finish. It's just to make the oil finish look nice. That's what this is. Oil finish, wax and oil finish. This is why they work so well together, because the wax really makes the oil finish look pretty. And an oil finish is normally dull. With wax on it, you can actually gloss it up a little bit, make it look really pretty. The finer you sand the top, the more gloss you can get from the oil wax combination. It's never going to be a high gloss, but it can get pretty glossy. Other things you need to know. These here, this kind of, sort of, but not to the extent these are. This is called a hard wax finish. These right here. And what you see for hard wax finish is Odie's. Rubio Monocoat is one. The Osmo is one. This is the most popular finish. English-speaking world, except for the United States, this is the #1 finish. Australia, England, Canada, anywhere they're speaking it, this is. And then a lot of other countries, this is it too. So this is very popular worldwide. It does a great, great job. A hard wax finish is a wax oil combination, and they put lots more solids in it. This was actually originally designed as a floor finish. The old floors, when you use oil, you had to refinish them every 2 years. With this, you refinish them every 10 years. And then when the polyurethane came out, you refinish them every 20 years. So that's just how good the solids are into using this product. Any of these products are good. We also have a whole bunch of them. We've got Tried and True as a hard wax finish. We've got others over there, so you really can't go wrong. This is the most popular one in this country. Does a great job. I love it. I use it all the time. Like anything else, when you put it on, these you put on, you're going to need to give a certain amount of time before you actually introduce food into the equation or give it to babies. Okay? You can never go wrong with 30 days, 1 month. No matter what you use, you're covered. You're going to be good. If you use this, you don't have to wait 30 days. You can go with 2 weeks. With this, every bit of 30 days. With this, I give it at least a week for all that the alcohol to flash off. But if you want to do a good solid rule of thumb, 30 days. How you apply this stuff? There's different ways to apply it. These guys here give you this. So if you buy their cutting board kit, you're going to get this to apply it, and you're going to get this to oil it, and this to put the wax in. This is Walnut Finishing Oil. I use this a lot, especially for turning. You just pretend you own the oil factory, give it a good dousing, let it sit for 10 minutes. If it's still wet, wipe it off really good. And then you're going to have an oily rag. Anytime you use the oils, you're going to have an oily rag, okay? Do not crinkle this up and throw it away. Drape it over something like laundry. Come back 24 hours when it's like cardboard, throw it away normally. But do not crinkle it up and throw it away because you'll cause a fire. This is probably the easiest, one of the easiest finishes I've ever used up until this came out. This is by far the easiest finish I've ever put on. It does a really good job, as you can see from that piece of wood we handed out there. But how do we put this stuff on here, this oil wax stuff? You want to get a little white pan, and we sell them about this big by this big, and you cut them up. And all you're going to do is take your piece of wood, a little, and you're really going to work it in, not so much this, but all the way. Get it in really, and a little bit's going to go a long way. You'd be surprised. I can dip this in this one time, and I can do this whole thing with just a little bit on there. It does a really good job. Make sure you get the sides. Make sure you get the ends. Okay. Ends will absorb all that stuff. If you don't get the ends good, you're going to see these white marks. And the reason we picked this piece of wood, besides it's beautiful, is that this was a cutoff. So you can get beautiful wood as cutoffs. So you get little cutoffs, don't throw it away, because you can make stuff out of it. But you want to put this stuff on with this. Really work it in good, and then let it sit. Most of them say let it sit for an hour. Then you come back and you buff it off. You can use a clean one of these or clean one of these to buff it off, and then basically you're done. When it comes to this type of stove, get one of these. If I'm going to do this desktop, the whole thing is, say it's going to be a nice table for us. If I use this, I can be here a long time putting this in. But Osmo, I can pour this on here, and I can take one of these, and I can start just trailing around, and this is how you use Osmo. Move it all the way around. Again, just like this, you're going to work it around all different angles, but you'll do the whole top very efficiently, very easy. Bigger top, get a bigger one of these. But it's very easy to spread. Yes, you're going to have left over. Let it sit, let it absorb. Okay? You come back and buff it. If there's any excess, it'll come off then. But this will do a good job. This, if you want to try it and not go crazy with this, because this one is $55 for that can. That's the bad thing about hard wax finishes. They're not cheap, but a little goes a long way. If you want to see what it's like, this is the same thing. This is a gloss. This is $22. This is it, but you can see price-wise, it's much cheaper to buy this than it is to buy this, because you get so much more. But I like this because they give you little cans. You can actually try stuff to see if you like them. Once you crack this thing, 2 years. If you don't crack it, 3 years. And I would highly recommend that you write the date on it that you purchased it and go from that. We don't know how long this has been in transit, but this did not come from this country. So it was on something somewhere. This is the oil in this without the wax. So if you just want to use the oil, this does a great job. I've used it before. It does a good job. But anytime you want to use one of the hard waxes, you really need the wax to give the surface a luster. And just it's easier to use the one that's built in. But what I've done with this before is taken this, take this the first coat. When it dried, I put this on as the second coat. Looked great. And this gave me the best of both worlds. It gave me more oil to really pop the grain. Oil pops grain in wood. If you have something really pretty, really quilted, you put this on first. When it dries, you put this on, and this is only $40. Over here, oh, stirring. You have to stir everything. All this stuff you have to stir. Even this. Just buy a box of these. They're cheap, they're inexpensive. Any finish, do not pretend you're fluffing meringue. It's really slow. And the reason we're doing really slow is because we do not want to generate bubbles. So we're just going to just mix it, fold it, just take your time. Not so much for this, don't have to really mix this, but all this other stuff you do, you want it consistent through that. And the nice part about mixing it now, my first bit of wax I'm going to put on here, dries on this, you can use it again to mix it. So the nice part about this is it's reusable with this type of finish. This type of finish, again, oil-based. I'm not saying oil-based is bad, I'm just saying water-based is better as far as safety goes. But the same stuff that's in this, this has cleans with mineral spirits, and the water-based one cleans with water. The solids that are in finishes basically are three types. We're not talking about shellac or lacquer. That's something completely different as far as that sounds. But all other finishes, varnishes, urethanes, polyurethanes, basically three solids. Acrylic resin, alkali resin, urethane resin. Acrylic resin is bright, shiny stuff. If you're going to get a finish and you want anything you want really super, super glossy, shiny, reflecting light, you want an acrylic resin. If you're just a regular, the first one that they used was the alkaline. It's a good hard. If any type of thing that says varnish on it, you're looking at an alkaline resin. It's a good, strong resin. It will really hold up well over the years. You can get it as a inside or an outside application. But again, it's going to be food after 30 days. The urethane resin is a special resin. It was designed for floors. It was designed in the 40s and 50s, and it was just a leap forward. And it's so good at what it does as far as holding up to abuse and abrasions that they started making bowling balls out of it. So if you get a bowling ball, it's a big, white, just big chunk of urethane. And but it does a very good job. It's very abrasion resistant. The problem is, this is easy to fix. This is harder to fix. This is impossible to fix. Okay, once the urethane hardens, after 3 days, it doesn't even like itself. It won't stick to itself. So if you're going to put a urethane resin on something as a food safe finish, it'll work after 30 days, but if something damages the wood, you have to take the urethane off completely. And to do that, you either put a stripper on there, which leaves the patina but pulls the urethane off, or you sand it back to the bare wood and start from scratch. Okay? But again, if I'm going food safe for babies, but know that since this falls in alcohol, any alcohol that you use to clean this is going to take the finish right off. So this is soapy water only, no alcohol. Other than that, this is a great finish. For stuff that you're going to use for this kind of thing, if it's going to be a lot of moisture, then you want a film finish. So a varnish is good, urethanes are good, they're fine. Just know that these are not dishwasher. These are a little soap and water in the sink, pat it dry, set it aside. They'll last for a long time. If you're going to use anything that you're going to cut on, film finishes are out, oil finishes are in, because they're easy to repair. Okay? They'll all be food safe after time. But something like this, especially if you're going to throw nuts in here or just people are going to reach in and grab stuff, this is fine. A film finish is fine. Doesn't matter what it is, it's going to do a good job for you. It's going to hold up well. If you want something really to hold up well, urethane is where you want to go. If this is going to go, I don't know why you want something food safe in like a bathroom, but in the kitchen, urethane is the way to go. It will hold up all kinds of clean. It doesn't mean urethane doesn't care if it's ammonia, alcohol. You can clean anything, it will keep it clean. It's just that if you scorch it, put something real hot on it, or the little kid takes a black magic wire and draws on it, you got to pretty much take the whole thing off and take it back to bare wood. but this is a very, very good product as far as eating from. So there you have it. Just know that some of this stuff that you're going to, it's going to have good solvents. Some of the stuff is going to have not so good solvents. If you're using stuff with not so good solvent, put something on your hands because your skin will absorb the solvent. I highly recommend water-based. It's a little extra step because you got to wet the surface when you're done. Before you've done your final sanding, wet the surface, raise the grain, hit the same grit sandpaper, and now you can put any of these things on. If you don't want to mess with that, if you go to an oil-based, you don't have to raise the grain because oil is not going to raise the grain. Wood likes oil. It's going to pull it right in there. It's not going to do anything funky. If you want an easy one to work with, if you're cutting boards, you want this kind of stuff and this kind of stuff. If you're going to treat as furniture, this or any of these. And then, of course, the solvent one, the oil-based ones and the solid ones here that are actually going to lay on top. You come up here and take a look at the pieces of wood if you want to, and look at any questions, and that's pretty much it.